Welcome. In your readings, we discussed arrays. By and large, a way for us to create a collection of primitives or even objects. Arrays are typed, meaning that all of the elements in that array must be of a single type. We can demonstrate that and how to create an array on line 5. On line 5 of this code, which is your demo code that you've seen in your reading, you can see that we have an integer or an int data type. The square braces indicate we are declaring an array, and we'll give that array a name called nums, and that will reference the block of elements that represent our array. Then we have the initializer, or a way for us to demonstrate how many cells should this array contain. And we can see here that what we're doing is creating an array that will contain 10 elements. The important thing about an array is that they're immutable. The size cannot expand, nor can it shrink. If we wanted to do that, we'll have to go through the steps of changing the elements from one array to another and adjusting the size appropriately. We'll discuss how to do that a little bit later on. Now, he wants to initialize the actual values for each of those cells in that int array. Right now, they just contain zeros because there's no values. What he's using on line 7 is a random number generator, and we've seen this guy before. And he's going to create a number between 0 and 99 and stick it in the arrays, in that nums array. The way that he's doing that is by using a for loop. In the for loop, he's declaring I and assigning it a 0. Now notice the next argument. He's looking for I less than nums length. Now this is a convenience that we get because Java just likes us. Arrays have a variable that's attached to them called length, and we can use that to find out how many elements that array contains. So the length that we will have here is 10. Now, also realize that arrays are 0 indexed, meaning that the first element is a 0. That means the last 0 is not a 10, but a 9. So that's why we're looking for and making sure that I is less than 10. As soon as it hits 10, this will be false and will fall through the for loop. And then for each pass, he's going to increment I by 1. That allows him, in the body of the for loop, back to line 7, to use I as the index into that array. Now, each element of that array will be assigned a random number. Then he's printing out the various numbers, the one number at element 7 on your line 9. He could have done a for loop, and he could have gone through it and printed all of the elements. The same way that we had filled them up, we could use a system.out.println to print them all out. He's just demonstrating it with one element. Then we have a new array being set up on line 10. This is to demonstrate that, that an object can also be a member of an array. In this case, it's a string array. So it will contain all the string objects, and he's calling it names. It will have 3 elements. In this case, he's assigning a value to each element individually. So we can see that the first element is Joe, the next is Jane, and the last one, Herkimer. And then he's using a for loop to simply go through that array that he's just populated in the same manner that we went through the nums array earlier to print the names of the people we have just put in. Right. At the very bottom of this example, on line 18, We have an element that's being referenced in names, and the value is 6. The highest value that we can address in an array is the last element. In this case, it would be names index number 2. As a result, this 6 is just out of line. There is no element 6. Now, languages like C and C++ will let you merrily go along and find a piece of memory that does relate to an index 6, and you'll get garbage back as a result, because we have no idea what happens to be stored there. Java is kinder. Java knows how many elements that array contains. And if we should go to an element that is outside the dimension we gave the array, Java will throw an array out of bounds index exception. Now, we're going to work with and learn how to work with exceptions a little bit later on. But it goes to some of the conveniences that we get when we're working with Java. It's doing index bounds checking for us with arrays. Other languages may not do that, C and C++ notably. Also, we get a variable that allows us to address exactly how many cells are in this array, and that's its length. So these are two convenience things that Java gives us, and it makes working with arrays a heck of a lot easier. As we move through and work a little bit more with arrays, I think you'll find that that's the case. Now, you can move on to your next reading, and you can look at the array variables. After that, you'll have your exercise, and I'll be back and we can go through the steps for that exercise. Have fun.